will Arkansas test the Vols offensively?
I don't put that up now.
John, I want to go ahead and offer up this. Arkansas will test Tennessee's offense, the first true test of the season. Bank on it, and that's brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day. Better solutions, better technology. Commercial Bank, cbtn.com. Personal and business commercial bank. John, should we bank on it that this is the first true test for Tennessee's elite defense? At least we think it is.
Yeah, I think it's the strongest test Tennessee has had for its defense, but I think after the game, we may still be wondering, well, when is Tennessee going to get its first test offensively? Arkansas, I was shocked when I looked up the stats that Arkansas ranked 13th in the country in total offense. How's that even possible? I've watched them play. I don't see the offense to be that dynamic. Jaquindon Jackson is a power runner, can break tackles, 230 pounds. Taylor Green, the quarterback, is interesting in he's a really good runner. He's very deceptive. He's 6'6", and he has these long strides, and guys don't get proper angles on him a lot of times on the corner. But his passing is really erratic. I think he could be turnover prone. So it's hard to say, but based on what we've seen in the stats, yeah, Arkansas should test Tennessee more, but I just don't see it moving the ball that effectively on Tennessee's defense.
Caleb?
So what about this? I mean, we keep saying, will they test Tennessee defensively? But, John, theoretically, they could finally test Nico Iamaleava too, right? Because if they do move the ball, this will really be Tennessee's first game in which they might need to turn to Nico Iamaleava to make some plays. And, I mean, his numbers, I think, it's kind of unfortunate for him. Tennessee's been so dominant, they haven't needed him to do anything, so they've kind of kept him close to the vest. I think he still is capable of being a Heisman caliber quarterback. Do you think this could be maybe the first game in which Josh Heupel unleashes Nico a bit because he kind of has to?
Yeah, Caleb, I really do, because I've looked Arkansas against UAB and against Oklahoma State gave up a lot of yardage passing. The quarterback for UAB threw for 3 touchdowns. Oklahoma State's Alex Bowman passed for well over 300 yards. So I think this is a game where Tennessee may really need to crank up its offense. It's not. I don't think he'll be like the Oklahoma game where you play really conservative because you got the game in hand, you got some tackles hurt. But I think this is a game where Tennessee really cranks it up offensively, and that would give Nico a chance to make plays.
John, what would it take to convince you that this defense is elite? And could that happen potentially on Saturday, or is it down the road?
Well, here's the thing. Watching the Alabama-Georgia game, going into that game, you could say both defenses are elite, just based on statistics, if nothing else. Georgia hadn't given up a touchdown. Alabama hadn't given up many points. Yet you get into that game and you got both teams are going for over 500 yards. So maybe part of that is the standard for what's an elite defense has changed in this offensive era. So I think you have to consider that. But I would like to see Tennessee, I guess, against an elite offense. And we won't see that Saturday. I think maybe you'll have to wait to the Alabama game.
They're ranked 13th in the country, though, John.
I know, but they also played something called University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, or as its fans call it, UAPB.
Well, well, my phone just rang. It was a bookie in Vegas, and he said that Arkansas Pine Bluff would be favored over Kent State by 13.5. So, I mean,
Eastern Michigan was a 14-point favorite, and it had no trouble covering against Kent State. I haven't seen UAPB. That's one team I haven't watched this year. Life is too short, but ESPN Plus, I guess you can find its games. I might check them out one time just to see how inept they are.
But John,
I think that practice. Go ahead, Cal.
John's bringing up a great point, though. It's still, even though we're in October now, would you guys both say it's still way too early to really measure how teams are statistically? Because everybody's played at least two really bad teams still, and that's inflating everybody's stats, isn't it?
Yeah, when you look at Tennessee's, none of its FBS, it's 3 FBS programs, all rank 100th or worst out of 133 teams in total offense. Now, part to do with the fact they played Tennessee and had awful games statistically against the Vols. But Kent State, to Dave's point, Kent State is dead last in total offense. It's down to its third string quarterback. And yeah, I may have to check Kent State out. I actually watched a few plays of that game last week.
Yeah.
Really bad.
I would argue this, though, guys, that we're at the point in the season where the statistics do matter. I think when you get about 5 weeks deep into October, I think they kind of even themselves out, because we could pick apart almost any SEC team's schedule. I think stats are apt now. I did not think they were apt after 2 weeks, given who the Vols had played and given who most of the SEC had played.
Well, here's the thing, Dave. Tennessee supposedly tough opponents, NC State and Oklahoma, are just playing dreadfully offensively. It just worked out that way. Oklahoma, because it's a rash of injuries to wide receivers and offensive linemen. I don't know what NC State's problem is, but Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina was supposed to be the savior for their offense. He probably should have stayed at Coastal Carolina. So he's lost his starting job. So, yeah, it's just hard to say. But there are maybe Florida can test defense, Tennessee's defense more. I just think it takes a more balanced offense than what Arkansas will present. I think it's very run-oriented, and Taylor Green's hit some big pass plays. And maybe I'm too biased from maybe I just think Tennessee's defense is better than it is. I'm just so impressed with that defensive front where you're putting a dozen guys in there, just shuttling them in and out, and they're all making plays. I mean, I think Tennessee has a better defensive front than Alabama or Georgia. So it's hard for me when I going into a game and I look at Arkansas, watch its game. I say, boy, they could really challenge Tennessee's defense. I just don't see it.
Okay, Bank on It Part 2, brought to you by Commercial Bank. The first part was this will be Tennessee's most significant test defensively in the Arkansas game. Would we all agree with that?
Yes.
That's fair, yes.
Okay. Bank on it, Tennessee's defense is elite no matter what happens on Saturday. I'll take that step. Do you guys want to follow Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank?
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, John, this Tennessee defense is elite. Are you willing to bank on it?
Yeah, I'll bank on it right now. But if Arkansas goes out and gains 500 yards, I'll change my mind. And I'll say, well, maybe the schedule, maybe I overrated Tennessee. But when I watch Tennessee play and I watch all these different college football games, I just don't see a defensive front dominating the way Tennessee's is. And if you got a defensive front and that can bring that kind of heat on an offense, it impacts everything. It even impacts Tennessee's offense. But quarterback doesn't have time to throw. He's scrambling for his life. Running backs get stonewalled at the line of scrimmage. You got to go to a plan B or a plan C against Tennessee. And its secondary is playing well, thanks in part to that defensive front. And the linebackers, and I thought we talked about this last week. I talked about that being it was a questionable area for Tennessee's defense in preseason. But those guys are making plays, and it's much easier to make plays when you got that defensive front just walling off all the blockers, and you're just free to go get the ball carrier. So I think it's elite. I really believe it's elite, but I guess Arkansas could change my mind.
Caleb, are you willing to say that Tennessee's defense is elite no matter what happens against Arkansas? I am.
I mean, I am too. Also because Arkansas does, to a certain degree, play up to a lot of their opponents, and then, as we'll get to later, thanks to mismanagement by Sam Pittman, usually loses it in the end somehow. But
no, what I'm asking everybody is, hold on. What I'm asking everybody is, will we be saying that Tennessee's defense is elite at the end of November? Have we seen enough?
Yes.
Well, see, I still want to say, I mean, I think it's elite, but I still want to see it against a better balanced offense, a team that can run a little bit and throw a little bit. And these opponents it's played are just so inept offensively. Look at Oklahoma. Its offense is a mess. It's not moving the ball effectively against anybody, except for like the Kent States of the world. And the same with NC State. It had 171 yards total offense against Northern Illinois. 171 yards. Still won the game, but that speaks to how challenged it is offensively. So I want to see a more complete offense against Tennessee. I think I like Florida's offense better than I do Arkansas's.